Now I'm going to take some blue and white here to start out our painting. I've got a very basic sketch here, nothing too exciting going on. I've got a little bit of clear gel and white up here on the sky area only. And I'm going to use that clear gel and white to mix and blend, you know, to get the nice soft feather to the sky. Otherwise, it's kind of hard. This canvas is a 20 by 20 size, and I don't know, I just thought that size would be nice, convenient, you know, for this type of scene, which is a little different. Vertical it's just impossible to film unless I go smaller. And I did have this canvas laying around, so oh, this is a good opportunity to use it. I kind of wanted a vertical look, but again, I can't film vertical unless it's smaller. I can use a 14 by 18 vertical, but it just gets to be too tall on this easel and for the sake of recording the video. But you can do anything that you like, you know, if you're not restricted to that sort of thing. And there you go. Now I've got this kind of blue-gray color, and I'm going to use that to begin to shape some of my trees back here. Actually, a lot of this background is going to be trees. We'll just use this color to begin to shape some of the trees. In fact, maybe I don't want to just use, that brush will take forever. Maybe I want to come in here with the fan brush and go just a little faster that way. I don't want to lose all of the little variation that I would get with the filbert brush, but right on the other hand, you know, we don't need to be here for, you know, the next 3 hours with the filbert brush. There we go. So I'll just tap up. A lot of these trees are very tall, most of them, you know, just right off the side of the painting. And I think that adds quite a lot of depth and variety to the overall scene. And I'm just going to blur the edges because really you need extra variety. You don't want just like one stamp, at least I don't want one stamping, you know, stroke, but I like the variety. Now I know I want a large section of this area to have like a yellowy golden color, and the same on this side. As an undertone, and then I'm gonna put my leaves on top, kind of a backlit situation. I'm gonna take my palette knife and I'm gonna take some sap green, Hans yellow white, a little yellow ochre, and this may seem a little extreme. It may be. Let's go ahead and just smear some of this around. Okay, this is a little crazier than normal. We're gonna see if it works. I just know that I don't want to spend 3 years up here. I don't want to spend 3 years trying to paint in a bunch of background mush just to have it all almost completely covered, you know what I mean? And then losing all my work. I'm going to scrape all of this off and then I'm going to wipe it with a shop towel. That's the plan. Oh, we need to thank our Patreon members. If you're not a member on Patreon, definitely consider joining. You get a lot of great perks that you can't really find anywhere else. Again, I realize this is drastic, but I'm just trying to go about this in just a different kind of a way. So I'm removing all the paint. Got all the paint off the canvas that I can with the palette knife. This is most of it. And I can get the rest of it with a shop towel. And what very little is left is just going to be stained on the canvas and very easy to work with. So, of course, I'm going to start in my outer areas first. It's just a good practice. Work toward the inner areas. And you can see any kind of leftover areas that didn't get fully filled in are certainly now filled in. Now I've got kind of a darker green mixed up, so we're coming from the light working into the darker areas now. And I gotta be very careful here, I'll tell you why. These trees could get too large. It would be so easy to get in here and just make a big old tree and make it look too close. I don't really want it to look too close. I want it to be growing from off the canvas because that tree in the background is so tall. It would really mean that most of my trees, if not all of them, need to be growing from off of the canvas. And so that's just exactly what I'm going to do there. I'm just going to work this in, kind of like you normally would for an evergreen tree. The procedure here really not too different. Bring down a trunk. And then I got another trunk. You can do several of these. In fact, I may want to go ahead and just get some tree trunks in the forest. I know I want quite a few, and it actually is going to be a fairly dark area. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is going to be a fairly dark area. So anyway, let me just continue to grow out some of these branches little by little. We'll work this in. I'm not going to go too quickly. This tree is important. It's part of the feature of this landscape. I don't want to make it too big, is the main thing. Now, it may seem a little early to go ahead and get the detail brush out and be doing stuff like this. And it is probably too early for this, but it's my painting. And I feel like it needs a little bit more attention to this bushy thing. Kind of to shape the edge of our forest. I believe it'll help things to look more completed. I've also popped in some light here. Just see, of course we have the background light, but it just is kind of monotone, which is okay. I mean, can't do much with it because we've got so many layers on top, can't have it too thick, so of course it's monotone when we wipe it. But now I can kind of go back in and add this other tone to it. It's very similar, but it just breaks it up. It's just part of the process. Just don't let me forget to add color before we're done here. The other thing, it's really good to finish out one side. Make sure that the techniques are working, especially if this is a little different than what you're used to doing, before you go doing it on the left side, because if you mess something up, you need to make a change. That saves you like double the work. So with that being said, now I feel confident to go ahead and move over to this left side. I wasn't quite confident to do that because this is a little different method of painting a forest of trees than I normally paint. So there's not a guarantee that it's going to work. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white here and some of our Hansa yellow, mostly white. And I'm going to just allow it to mix with what's on here on a clean fan brush. I'm just going to tap a little more of our yellow, even a little sap green wouldn't hurt. There we go. And I'm just going to work in. I'm going to work in some grass, some tall grass back here. All right, now that's pretty straightforward. We can cut that back with the road when the time comes. The time isn't here yet for doing that. You could do that. We could go ahead and underpaint the road right now if you wanted to. You could have done it before the forest. For my painting today, though, I think I'm going to wait on that road just a little bit. In fact, what I may do is I may take and just carve that out a little bit. I don't want to do much of anything yet to the road. I want to save that to be its own step, kind of separate from the landscape. I just feel like it might go better that way for me. Let's go right here. Let's go right there. And I'm going to place in some burnt umber, some my yellows, and just begin to place in some light that's sneaking. Well, that doesn't look much like light. That looks more like dark. Let's fix that. Let's fix that. Oh, we'll get it right at some point. I just don't want it too bright. You know what I mean? I want a little bit of light sneaking here through the trees. Of course, it won't be too vivid, but it'll be just enough. I think that will work. Well, it's finally time to work our road in. I saved it till now. Just didn't really feel like tackling it until now. I'm going to work in some shadows here, which I think are going to be very important. It's what's going to really create some of the interest here on the road. I've got all kinds of colors going. A lot of gray tones, but a lot of purples within my grays. I've also got these peach tones that I'm still working with. I think I need something in there. I don't want to cover that just yet. Now that I got the path mostly underpainted, I'm going to take some burnt umber and some white on a palette knife of all things, because I think it'll actually give me some pretty good texture, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm not going to go on thick like you would with a normal, like a palette knife painting, but I am going to just skim it across the surface here, just to begin to kind of work in some texture that would be very difficult to work in any other way. So I'm going to do that. Let's just see what happens. So we got kind of our gray tones. Maybe I'll take some more, burnt umber tones and smoosh them in, and we'll just play around with color until we have something that we're happy with. And really, it's a pretty straightforward little process. Now I've got these kind of grayish undertones, but I'm going to Put some red for foreground material, foreground color. Bring that up and even into my side of the path, which I kind of did awfully straight. I'll break that up and make that a little bit more interesting. There you go. And purples, just a little bit of everything. Just in the foreground. Then as we go to the background, of course, I'll need to grab a brush because the palette knife texture is going to be inappropriate for the background, of course. And since we're just up here playing around, it might be kind of fun to put in a big old puddle right here. Now I still have to finish the path. I kind of stopped because I thought, well, it would be fun to do it. This looks like spring. I'm going to add some flowering trees and bushes and whatnot. But I think it could be, just could be fun to go ahead and add some puddles. So they're, to me, one of the easiest, most effective things you can do to a path to make it just so interesting. So I cleared out a little space to work with my palette knife. You got to do that. That is not an option. If you want clean paint, no mud, and I'm just going to pull straight down with my little flat brush, 3/4 flat brush, depending on the size of your painting. You could use the 1/4 flat brush. I am going to allow it to pick up some of that color because, well, you'd have to let it dry if you didn't want to, basically. But I'm going to pretend like I meant for it to pick up some of the color. No, in reality, it's actually a good thing. And it's one of the bonuses, one of the benefits of painting oils, is you will pick up some of the surrounding colors, and it just makes it feel like it fits properly into the painting. Now I'm going to use the liner brush, and I'm just going to thin the paint down a little bit, not a lot, just enough to kind of get it creamy to where it'll flow off the brush. And I'm just going to place in a few of these little highlights right over the main area of the trees. And there we go. And I like to do a lot of my details nowadays with the liner brush. I feel like it really just gives me a better look, a little more of a crisp, detailed, sharp look that is so hard to get in oils when you're trying to get it all done in one day. And the liner brush will do it for you. It really will. It'll get you that crisp line, the crisp edge that you want to see, at least I want to see. And I can get all these little details without worrying about it mixing mud or anything like that. And go right over those tree branches, and we're not going to have any trouble. And while I'm up here, I'll just throw some more tree branches in, after I'm done with this color. I can do all kinds of details and just keep on going with. Now I'm going to just overhand this brush, and I'm going to just kind of dabble in a few of these flowers. I'm going to make some flowering bushes, but I've got to be careful. I don't want it to mud mix, and I do have just a little bit of oil because the oil's already on the palette anyway, so I got a little bit of oil in this brush, and that will help it to stick, actually. So, well, what's the disadvantage to that? Why not always? Because if you follow my channel much, you'll know I very rarely do I add oil to something like a detail round brush. Well, here's the deal. It's okay. It's all fun and games until it isn't, if you know what I mean. So sometimes, as you're doing this sort of thing, you can kind of get away. And you'll end up putting too much oil in, and you'll get away from where you want to be and start creating mud very quickly. So I try not to add too much oil, or any oil at all, really, except with the liner brush and today. There we go. It's pretty though, isn't it? I want to keep it in the shadows, just have a little sparkle. That's all it is, just a little sparkle. So now I'm actually going to just place in a few little blades of grass here with my liner brush, and this pretty much wraps up our painting. You could take this as far as you want, or you really don't have to. Don't have to take it very far. As far as detail goes, I do feel like I want a little bit more detail, just in the form of little dabbles and dots. That's about all it takes, really. Sometimes to make it look detailed, just make it look busy, is all. Sometimes busyness is a very good thing in a painting, very hard to make. In my opinion, very hard to make a landscape overly busy. Yeah, there you go. It's just all it needs. So a little more liner brush work, I'd say. That'll get things looking a little bit more finished and tied together. Good. Even a couple would not hurt to have some plants and whatnot just sort of growing. I don't want to make it messy, but just a little bit of plants and vegetation growing down here as well. Well, that wraps up our painting for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our website, our DVDs, our paintbrushes, and also Patreon. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. It helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.